Welcome back to our conversation on gun violence prevention. We continue to answer your questions. You can also submit your comments right now under the live stream of the show on our Facebook pages. Everytown for Gun Safety, it's a nonpartisan group advocating against gun violence, and they tracked 193 incidents of gunfire in the 21-22 academic year. That is more than double the previous year. No school year in the U.S. in nearly a decade saw as much gunfire as last year's academic calendar. The report says homicides, assaults, suicide attempts, they make up nearly 60% of all gun violence at our schools. Today we're talking more about this. Matt Seifer, a certified New York State instructor, owner of Guardian Security Training, is here. So too is Dr. Jose Prince. He's the surgeon in chief at Cohen Children's Medical Center, also part of Northwell Health's gun violence prevention unit. So I do want to talk, Matt, I know you were just mentioning in the commercial break about your daughter and how you feel about school safety right now.
Dialing it back to Sandy Hook. When Sandy Hook happened, my wife was at the time pregnant with my daughter. 3 months later, my daughter was born. During those images, those horrific images that were coming across the screen, December 14, 2012, when an assailant walked into Sandy Hook Elementary School, I don't want to be one of those parents that comes home and doesn't see their children in their bedroom. I don't want to be one of those parents that loses a child to senseless gun violence. I get it. But that's part and parcel why I became an instructor. Making sure that if you're going to carry a handgun, you're going to have a firearm in your home, that you are properly taught on how to use, safely dispose, and make sure that when you're introducing a handgun in the home or you're carrying that handgun, the responsibility that lies with that.
And Dr. Prince, I know your group has really worked so hard to make sure that we do have safe schools, that people feel safe when they enter these buildings.
Yeah, I think everyone agrees. I have 3 children myself in school, and we don't dream of schools as being a dangerous place. What do we want as a society to build? And so I think there's a number of aspects to this. One is, can we do a better job of identifying troubled kids and helping them early on? And I think that those school-based interventions and school-based clinics, such as Northwell has started, for example, my own school district here in Rockville Center in Nassau County. I think that's a key component. I think it'd be important for me to mention here, we need the community involved. And so in different communities, this looks different. And so we partner with a large number of other community organizations and faith-based groups in those different schools, because the challenges are different in the different zip codes that we all live in. And part of what we want to do is also violence intervention. We've been working towards that. New York State has funded that. So can we get credible messengers? Can we stop the second shooting, once the revenge shooting that might happen for that kind of gun violence problem that we have? I think there is a lot of work to do there. And I think research here is really critical. What are the ways to identify a troubled youth? What are the best mechanisms to accomplish this? We have a lot of work to do there. And finally, there's been some funding. So we have a $1.4 million grant from the NIH within the emergency room to learn how to screen people at risk for gun violence. And we really want to try to get the best methods, the best questions. How do you not turn off somebody by asking these questions who thinks you're here to take away their gun? That's not what we're here to do. We're trying to see if the gun is safely stored. Do you need a gun lock? Do you need access to better ways to store your weapons?
All right, Mickey says, with all of these new laws, will retired police officers also have to recertify every 3 years like the general public, Matt?
So from what we're hearing now, it's an excellent question. Unfortunately, yes, the answer is going to be yes. Retired law enforcement, from what we're hearing at this time, potentially can be subjected to having to certify.
All right, Bob says, focus on prosecuting criminals, not law-abiding citizens, Dr. Prince.
Yeah, I 100% agree in trying to track down criminals. I don't think that has the 2 different conversations here. One is about firearm safety, and honestly, that's true for people who have an illegal weapon at their home, whether it's a hand-me-down from someone in the family or whether it's something that they illegally purchased because that's their only access, or has been their only access to make themselves feel safe. That firearm safety is true as something that we're all about. And I have to say, I don't take care of adults anymore. I'm a pediatric trauma surgeon, but my colleagues and friends in the police force, the FBI, that are trying to find those weapons and are also the victims of gun violence themselves. It is really critical we get those guns out of those hands. 100% agree with that sentiment.
All right, John says arrest anyone with an illegal gun committing a crime and change bail reform to keep them in prison. It is not the gun, it's the criminals using them, Matt.
So technically, I can't really speak to the laws with regards to bail reform, but I will say this. If anyone that is a criminal that is carrying a handgun and it's revealed during an investigation with interaction with law enforcement needs to do their job, which they are doing effectively. They are getting the illegal guns off the streets. That I will say. As far as criminals carrying guns and not having access to specialized training, look, we do a tremendous amount of screening. When we screen guards that are looking to carry handguns, when we train guards, there's a tremendous amount of intake process that we do when we train someone to utilize a handgun in self-defense or in the performance of their job. So along those lines, if they have a felony conviction or if they have a serious criminal past that they have, ultimately that prevents them from moving forward with us. I can't speak to other schools, but I will say this, just like the doctor said, there's a level of integrity with regards to the screening and processing of the education that we provide at Guardian Security Training.
All right.
Elizabeth, may I add something?
Ahead, sure.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
You know, the one thing I'd like to add is that, you know, the level of mental health problems across the world is the same.
Sure.
The level of anger and other problems that people have is the same across the world. But it's a uniquely American problem to have the #1 cause of death for children to be gun violence. So I think that's an important part to add to that conversation.
All right, coming up next, we're going to give you your 2-minute takeaway, the things you need to know. Thanks so much for joining us.